Shabbat Shalom. Our Parsha begins with Moshe reminding the Jewish people that they have to observe Shabbat. The Torah tells us Moshe then convoked the whole Jewish people and said to them, these are the things the Lord has commanded you to do. Sheshet yamim taseh malacha, u'b'yom hashvi yihi lachem kodesh Shabbat Shabbaton l'Hashem. On 6 days work may be done, but on the seventh day you shall have a Shabbat of complete rest, holy to the Lord. Whoever does any work on it shall be put to death. Rashi, following Chazal, point out that the psukim immediately after this verse describe the building of the Mishkan. And he says, this is no accident. Rashi writes, Moshe mentioned it to them, the prohibition about violating Shabbat, before the command about building the Mishkan, in order to intimate to them that building the Mishkan, doesn't supersede Shabbat. And in fact, Chazal write that all of the activities that are forbidden on Shabbat, we learn out from the fact that they were activities involved in the building of the Mishkan. And these were the specific activities that one cannot do on Shabbat. The Navi Yirmiyahu writes that the first temple by Rishon will be destroyed because the Jewish people did not observe the laws of Shabbat. And there is one malacha, one prohibited form of labor in particular, that he warns the Jewish people that their lack of observance of will lead to their destruction. Yirmiyahu said to the Jewish people, thus said the Lord, guard yourself for your own sake against carrying burdens on Shabbat and bringing them through the gates of Yerushalayim. Nor shall you carry out burdens from your house on Shabbos or do any work, but you shall hallow the Shabbat as I commanded your fathers. Yirmiyahu warns the Jewish people not to do any type of malacha on Shabbat, any type of prohibited labor. And in particular, he warns them not to carry on Shabbat. But why is carrying so important? Why should that be the focus of Yirmiyahu's warning? Before we get to a possible answer, let's just look at the first Mishnah in Masechet Shabbat. We won't do this inside, but feel free to read it later. But this Mishnah describes what exactly is prohibited when we talk about not being able to carry on Shabbat. That you can't bring something from a private domain into a public domain or from a public area into a private area. Rav Hirsch believed this malacha was different from all the other malachot. And he writes that if we look at the common idea, which underlies all the other malachot, they all show the position of man as a master of matter, of all things of the physical world. But hotzah, carrying, is an affair purely of the social world. The whole idea of social life, of living not isolated but in a community and a state, cannot be represented more fully than by the relation of individual to the community and the community to the individual. What the individual has to give to the community and what the community gives and does for the individual. What the individual takes out of his own private possessions and pays to the state, and what he gets back for himself. And finally, the furthering of public purposes and needs in the public domain. This is most clearly expressed by hotzah, carrying. And then he explains carrying from the private domain to the public domain, from the public domain to the private domain. If accordingly, the isser, the prohibition of all the other malachot, all the other prohibited forms of work, expresses the idea that man subordinates the use of his powers over matter to the will of God, the isser of hotzah may well express the idea of placing man's social life too under the dictates of the laws of God. On Shabbat, we are reminded that God doesn't just govern what we can do as individuals, but also our social lives and how we interact with others. And that is why hotzah is such an important malacha. Shabbat Shalom.